Alright,
Now,
so we have a project called makegamer, which we're gonna expand on the thing that we did yesterday,
what's
and
Mel's first
I think it was chairman. uh,
Now is his first name. It's Zedong or something.
yeah, it was
Maybe
Zedong, Zedong Mao, yeah. But I prefer chairman, I guess. Alright, so yeah, so we can start putting into this project that GitHub has this pretty cool project page. So the first project, I guess, that we have is like this prototyping section. I can't hear myself with the music. So what do we want to design? I guess let's concretely write down all the things like objects.
Yeah, let's just go with like what is your first question before of like what is a game made of?
Yeah, so we have like what is a game? So what is the over? I guess what do we put this under? Like
I call them assets. What are the assets that you would save onto disk?
Okay, so assets save set. Yeah, just for assets, and then we'll put in here like what we have. Okay, what are the assets for the game? Make gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this converts to an issue, which we can write some more stuff in.
An issue. Okay.
So what did we come up with? We have sound, we have sprites, and just general images. We should have images, but like distinguishing sprites versus like background, I guess.
Background, yeah.
Font. Scripts. Objects. Scripts.
Rooms. And I think that's it.
Events.
That's inside objects.
Yeah, true. So that's a separate thing. And the other thing that we should think about is like our editor. So like editor UI. And versus like how we're going to
edit all these different things.
Run mode. Like edit versus mode versus run mode, right? So we want like edit mode versus running the game. Yeah, so in edit mode, I guess let's just draw some like basic images and then plonk them in. So if we have, we'll just go to Ada. We'll do it in JS Paint. We'll do it in JS Paint because JS Paint.
Yeah, but that's what this GitHub projects needs is a drawing.
Yeah, maybe there is something there.
Whiteboard.
What do we have? Yeah.
That would be amazing.
No, we don't have it. So we'll just draw it. So let's just draw like an example of, what we might see for the UI if we.
Yeah.
So if we first step would be like creating a room, right? And so let's say you import. So like what would the editor look like?
Just for reference, just as like historical information, the way that GameMaker did it was a bit like a folder tree structure on the left.
Oh yeah.
So and each, instead of folders, it was the different asset types. So you had sprites, you had background images, sounds, objects, rooms. They were all like folders, and inside those were every single instance of those. And whenever you clicked on one, it would open up a window on the right, which was the editor for that thing. And you had all these like sub windows that you could just arrange however you want and edit things constantly.
Was objects as well one of them?
Yeah.
Right. And so it would list down.
That's just how GameMaker did it. And right. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, for now I just want to like draw a templated editor. And so, yeah, let's get rid of this. But let's say you have a project view. So this would be like your what do you call it, like a file directory or something. So
Asset directory.
Asset directory. And yeah, you could have a room. So like if this is the overview, maybe you want separate tabs for like room versus object.
Oh, so like Sublime Text basically.
So tabbed
You've
base.
got your file directory on the left, and then you can click things, and they'll open up in tabs in your like main window.
Yeah. So let's say this was room, and you had this open. So you have like it would have like the size of the room that is different to the image, and then let's say this was like some dimension like 1280, and this is like 480.
You'd have a bunch of like editor controls as well as like room properties you want to set. Like,
so maybe like here you could have all the properties.
Yep. That's like your toolbox or something. Right?
Yeah, and it changes based on if it's an object or a.
Yeah. I like that.
So this is switchable, and then let's say you have like a background image and you put that in here. So you could have like it be the full thing or like the section, you know. And so your background image could be the entire room, or it could, you know, so what are the different like tiled, full, filled or something?
For the editor, where would we show that option?
Probably here.
Yeah.
So you would have like background image 1 associated to it. Would come up.
Yeah, it's like a sub thing of room. It's like each background image you want, and then that has its own properties of like tiled or filled and position. And stuff.
But going back to what we said before, like you said, events are part of object. What's the associated stuff for a room?
It has the so we went through this before. So it was like viewport, what you see on the screen, how big the viewport is.
Yep.
How big the room is.
Yep. So dimensions of the room.
Yep.
And then attached to that, we just said like there's like images, so attachments. Yeah, images. But then we also have potential objects. So there's like a states, right? So we wanted to have the rooms have multiple states, and what we discuss is like you could have 2 background images, like one for day, and this could be one for night. And then you could have the same thing. And then maybe based on some event, it would change, you know.
Let's just start with just a single state. Let's work that out first before we.
Okay.
And then we'll like turn it into multiple states.
So, like we have all this section here. Do you think the whole space here would just be for the room, so it would actually fill the whole screen?
Yeah, I reckon, because we got the thing on the right for like stuff that like controls and tools.
But remember we said like we also want this view that has multiple rooms where you can attach them and connect them. So like an overview.
Yeah, so I see that as a separate thing. That's like a multi-room editor.
Right, okay.
That's where you might make a collection of rooms, and that's its own thing where you can put them together. Although, we were talking about being able to edit multiple rooms, and the thing on the right would just switch dynamically based on which rooms in focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I was thinking maybe this could be like an overview where you could have like another room here that has a different dimension that you can pan out to, and it's connected.
I think we'd have a thing that switches between arranging rooms and then like actually going and editing the rooms in that
Ah, okay.
arrangement.
Yeah.
So
So
one's like a zoomed out, and then you zoom in to
yeah.
do individual room editing,
So
but you can pan across all the rooms.
so there should be like an overview state versus like an individual state.
Mm-hmm.
So let's call that the overworld, where it's like displaying
Yeah,
multiple rooms, and you can
yeah.
context switch. So maybe in that view, you can still have this view of separate. Like you can click on the room. So let's say you click on this,
Yeah,
it'll give you this
and that gives you
context.
the
But
exactly,
then
yeah,
you also have like this room here that has stuff
exactly.
and an image too. And then if you
Hmm.
click on that, it changes this context. And then you might
Yeah,
have another room here. But then
yeah,
there's another view. So I'll just save this, I think.
yeah. This is sort of describing the multi-room view, the overworld. Yeah. Can you just copy paste it into Git?
Let's try it.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's good.
Easy.
Easy. Um, yeah, and so like if we got rid of this, how do I get rid?
I
There
like
we
it.
go.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. If you just had the individual room, it would be just the background image one, and then okay, let's talk about the state stuff that you were saying. So this is like the
Mm.
individual state. So there might be objects in here. So let's say
You
there's like
have
a
there'll be a bunch of objects.
so let's say there was a door here, and then you have your player like that, and
Hmm. So
oh,
in this view, you want to be there to put the objects in the room, arrange them, and all that.
yeah. So let's just draw a state like a platformer. So it's like Mario or something.
Hmm.
So there's some initial state. Um, so initial, or you could have other states, or just a bunch of states. So let's say you have like you define different states, and what this state says is like where all the stuff is when you
What
load
do
the
you mean a
room.
bunch of steps?
Yeah. So like um, the states that you define are different things you can load the room into based
Sure.
on an event. So you could have like an initial state, or like
Yeah.
another custom state of like an end state, or just some
Mm.
state, and this dictates what does the state have, what's in a
Yeah.
state.
So I think it's gonna be the objects in the room
Yep.
and where they are, and say what rotation they are,
Yeah,
and
so
maybe even
it's
what scale they
positioning.
are. You can maybe scale them up and down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But let's say you loaded the thing and there's like a boss here, for example, that might have certain
Mhm.
properties. So it's more property, like it's the object given like maybe associated with a specific set of properties. Like it could have a specific
Mm.
um,
Yeah, just like a JSON or something, a config.
but I wonder, right? Like, if you had a room associated with this and then you transition from one room to the other, you want to keep that state. Like, let's say the health of the player is like
Mm.
50, and then you transition to this room. You want to keep the
Mm.
player's health to be 50, right? So
Mm.
you want to pass that on.
So I think the way that normally happens in Game Maker is the player's state is stored in like a controller,
Hmm.
and then the player object actually just reads those values.
Right.
So the player object is really like it's just the position, and when it gets created, it'll read the values and use those. So that sort of persistent state is global variable state.
But what I'm thinking, right, is um, if you have multiple rooms like we had in this example,
Mm.
if you say this is the initial room that had like where your player is initially, and then you transition there, you don't necessarily need to like. you could encode that the player starts here when it transitions from this door, for example, um,
Mm.
or this door if there's a door there, um, and we could make it so that the user does that, but it's kind of like, yeah, I mean that's
You
fine.
want to,
Yeah,
you
that's
want to
fine.
persist the object across rooms?
Well, I mean, that way that we're thinking of doing that is still okay, where you're defining which object is persisting across rooms, but you want to keep its state, as you said. So, um,
Um, I think
but no,
I
hold on. But
think
if you have enemies, for example, that want to persist as well, like maybe it's not just you, the player. Maybe there's an enemy that's constantly walking and will also like go across rooms. How would you encode that?
Mm. So, this whole multi-room thing with like connections,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing to build upon here. So see how you drew that sort of shaded rectangle on the side?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that's like the teleportation between rooms area.
Yep.
You define in one room, like here's an area where if the player goes in, or just describe this area as like a portal,
Yep.
and then the player can like on collision with portal, they can decide to follow the portal, go
Or
through.
or any object.
And
We could say not just the player, any object.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Any, I mean this in a general way.
yeah, okay.
If someone flies with the portal, it can then decide to follow the portal. And that portal area
Mm.
needs to also be defined in another room, and it just goes to that other room and takes whatever's in the portal that transition to that spot in the other room.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's fine. So, in terms of our room designation, we define like these portal areas that allow objects transitioning. Is that what you're saying?
Mm.
So there's some
Yeah,
like boundary, like a collision box that once you enter that, you can
yeah.
fire off an event to say like transition to this room, and you pass on the objects that hit that.
And there's a difference between whether the camera it goes to that room or whether the object goes to that room.
Oh yeah.
So for the player, you'll have both, but for enemies, only the enemy will go into the other room.
Mm, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess all these rooms are like alive. They're all sort of exist at the same time, and if an
Ah.
enemy goes into a room,
So
it's now in that
we need
room.
to add that then camera then to the set of things that of like will it like that's deciding where it's
That's
focused
kind
on,
of a runtime thing. It's not really an asset.
but it's linked to the viewport as well, right? So like when it
Yeah, room has viewport. That's true.
so like there's a camera that's displaying the runtime, which is separate to this editor as we discussed, and that
Yeah,
has a
yeah,
size and whatever, and we
yeah.
can
That's
see
just how the game state,
right.
like
Okay.
which room is currently active.
Well,
Where all
I
the
might just add that then to the run
yeah,
mode.
it's a runtime state thing to make those.
So we'll call this runtime, and in here we need so we need a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Which is like which active room.
mhm.
We have all the objects which are alive.
Yeah.
And that's like it. That's
Yeah.
about all there is. I don't know what else you would have.
Okay. So I like the idea of this portal thing. So it's just like a designation in the room where it can fire on an event to say like send these objects that collide with this to a
Yeah,
different
I
room.
think it should be an object event as like collision with portal,
Yeah.
and it can decide like it can decide okay, I need to be completely inside the portal before I switch, stuff like that.
Oh, it should really make this part of object. So we'll have a separate thing, just an object.
Honestly, having events as its own thing, I think that's warranted because there's a lot
Okay. Yeah.
detail
Okay.
to do. but yeah, events is implicitly part of objects.
Yeah, so we wanted like a so on collision. What else? On portal.
On create.
On create.
On portal as well, yeah.
On destroy.
On step. On draw. On keyboard event.
Oh yeah.
On mouse event.
Mm-hmm.
That's like everything.
Yeah, that's enough for now.
I think.
Yeah, so we have portal state, this section that we can define portals.
Mm-hmm.
What else for a room?
So we got the objects and all their configuration, like position and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The portals. So I guess a lot of these rooms won't have the player. Like you'll put the player in the first room, and then from then on you expect the player and enemies to like migrate.
Yeah. And so like in the higher scheme of things, imagine a simple example of like Mario starting here, transitions there, there's an enemy there. We don't have to really encode the player. We just say that there's a portal that allows that player to go there. And maybe we want to just make this available to just the player so that the enemy doesn't transition. It's just like doing in this room, going back and forth. But if we wanted to open this up, we can also make the enemy just keep going if it wanted to. So
I feel like there's some toggles we can put for the room here. One is like whether it runs in the background. Like you might not want it to run in the background.
Oh yeah.
Everything's room. That's probably excessive. So it's like maybe the current stage you'll have them run in the background, but all the other stages you don't want them to.
So if it's not running in the background, what would we do? We would just like launch it.
When an enemy goes there, then they go into like they go to the other room, but then the other room's not running. So
I see.
The enemies
so in the case where we want to have some sort of persistence of maybe we can like as you explore it, it starts to create these and then runs in the background. You know what I mean? So initially they're all not there, but then as the player explores, they become there. And sort of changes the world in which it's interacting with.
I feel like just having the default value run in background, and then it can be up to the player object to turn that on. It's like when I go into the room, I'll always tell it to run in the background.
So in the case of, say, there's an enemy in one room and the player's not there yet, it's like running in the background, you know, having some sort of game logic where it's just like moving back and forth, trying to find the player. And then if you don't turn that off, it's not there yet until you go into the room, and then it's like it creates that room.
I'd let it also be a runtime state of the room that you can set.
Okay,
but
so
you'd want to be able to set it initially as well. Because maybe there's some rooms you do want to run in the background, even though you haven't been there yet.
So we need runtime state for all the objects. We just call this.
All the objects need to have runtime state.
And also rooms will have their own runtime state.
Yes.
And maybe even like, we'll just keep that for now. Yeah, I like that. Whether it's running in the background is like a runtime state of a room.
The Game Maker didn't have that. There was no such thing as running rooms in the background. But what it did have was persistence. So I think by default, when you leave a room and come back, the room is completely reset.
Okay.
And that could be desirable too. So whenever you enter a room, like whenever the game camera goes to a room, does it reset itself or does it persist what it used to have?
Yeah, so persistence would just be like, keeping... a non-persistent would just be like resetting it to initial state or not.
Every time, which would be desirable for things like if you have like a health fairy or something, and it's a special stage room, you just want to reset it every time you go there because it resets every time you go there.
What else for rooms?
Startup script.
Sorry?
Startup script.
Startup
Like
script.
just some code to run when it loads.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
And I think that's everything.
Yeah, that's
We
good
got
for
a
now.
game.
It's
We
good for
got a
now.
game maker. A gamer maker.
So we should look at objects and their properties and what it would look like.
There's a bit more to objects than just the events.
Yeah. So if we just get rid of this. Yeah, so let's say you click the object and then you have like the player.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a sprite.
Yeah, but we want the sprite to be able to be loaded, right? As part of the object. So it's part of the view.
Like the main thing you do with an object is write the event handling.
Yeah. But let's say like the player has a bunch of other sorry?
Yeah, like setting the sprite is part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a section here of like, well, it's not just this sprite, it's like a bunch of sprites based on different states, right? Like if it's damaged or whatever, you want to change it, the sprite that it uses.
So the object has states.
Yes.
Yep. Just like the room.
I'm just gonna like put this side by side. It's easier.
Yeah, I like this idea of multiple states of a room and of an object, like the same thing.
Yeah. So based on a state, you could have like different sprites that it uses.
And even different event handlers. This is a bit like an ADT.
Yeah, maybe we could write it like that, where it's just like this email with it. Does TypeScript have ADTs?
So I was looking into that. It doesn't officially, but you can emulate it decently well.
Oh yeah.
So you get the benefits of ADTs, but like the syntax is just a bit more rough.
Yeah. So let's say in this object you have like maybe different tabs for the states. I don't know, or like a list of states that you can choose from. So like it's a drop down. There's like state one. State
I think the list is all suitable, and then whichever one you got selected sets everything else.
Yeah. So if you select that, it like has the sprite. Maybe. But maybe you want like an animation, so like a bunch of sprites.
But I think a sprite should be able to be an animation.
Oh, okay, right.
Like a running animation. You're in your running state, so you show your running sprite.
So
or your idle animation. Yeah.
So in terms of like the upload of a sprite and like having it animate, would it show all the frames and then you can just like would you?
Yeah. Like the Piscal site.
Right.
You see all those frames.
And how would we show that though? Like, would it be like a bunch?
You wouldn't show it in this view. That'd be in the sprite editor where you focus in on that stuff.
Okay.
I think.
But you just associate.
Yeah, all you're doing is associating the object.
So we need the sprite view at some point. We'll get to that then.
Yeah.
So this is sprite 1. And this is state. All right. What else do we need for an object?
Events. All those different event types.
Yeah, so on create, on display, etc. Yep.
And all of these have like subtypes, like on collision or on keyboard, or maybe not, yeah, actually I take that back. In GameMaker, whenever you to make a collision event, you had to say collision with a certain object, and that was its own
Oh,
event.
okay.
So when you went to go to that event, it was like
Yeah.
a drop down with pick from the
Right.
objects.
But like, how are we
Yeah.
going to deal with a collision in our one?
I think there should just be a parameter.
Right. So you give it a.
I wonder if it might be more optimal if it knows which objects care about collisions. It could. Let's just go with on collision for now.
Okay. Because then you would have to specify all the collision points, and that would be really, really difficult to encode.
Collision points?
Yeah, so like the collision points could be stuff in the invisible collision stuff on the room. It could be like other enemies, and really it should be those objects that define the collision with the player. That way, the player doesn't have like this massive list of collisions. It's really
yeah.
Or it could be both.
Had something. GameMaker had a setting on objects, which meant they don't collide with anything, and you would use the decoration and stuff. And so we should probably have that as an object state as well.
Right, like a no clippy type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, just like no clip. Yeah, no, what does no clip mean? Because it means no collision.
Yeah.
Why is it no clip? Yeah, I think that's an important state to have for objects. Is it no clip?
So let's say you click on this event on create. Like, what are we going to put in the interface?
A place for you to write code.
Right. So if you click on here, let's say you have on create. Oops.
I would make higher area code.
Sorry.
I would make the entire middle area dedicated for code.
Yeah. So like this section.
And maybe you can maybe it has tabs for like different events, so you can have multiple of them open.
Yeah.
Or like even columns if you want to see them both side by side. But that's getting complicated.
Yeah, because this all has to be in Canvas. How do we do that?
It doesn't have to be in Canvas.
That's true. It can be in a web page. Yeah. We could actually write a Vue thing or something.
It can all be Vue. Yeah. It's the game that's in Canvas.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't want to write a code editor in Canvas.
No. So that's a good point. So maybe we want to...
we just reuse a JS editing tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe for the editor, like actually put this on a web page.
I think so. I think that's your regular GUI skills can come into play here.
You can use React.
Have you done React?
A little bit.
Is Vue better? Oh, we haven't done Svelte.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind doing React because I haven't done like a proper React project.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing it just for that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Okay.
Svelte is a bit of a gamble, I think. Like it sounds nice, like it's got more modern improvements, but React is like you should probably know React.
Yeah.
Everyone else uses React. It's like learning Java. You should know Java if you want to be in the industry.
Well. Okay.
This is good. Look at all this. Yay! Copy paste and GitHub. It's nice. And you can edit these, right?
What?
I mean, in the 3-dot kebab menu on the.
Yeah.
No. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay, so what do we have? We have sort of ticked the yeah. So what about loading the assets?
Mm. So yeah, how do you create things in the first place? I feel like the thing on the left, that side thing with all the assets, just have a plus.
Hmm.
Like objects has a plus next to it, background has a plus, and that's create new or upload,
Yeah, a
depending on
plus
the upload.
minus and just upload or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the editor view on the left will allow you to upload stuff, and then
Yeah.
like sprites. Oh yeah, we should do the sprite view as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Can you use what's that site that you gave me?
It's cool.
This school.
It's cool. I think it's 1L. Yeah.
So upload, and we want to upload like GIFs, PNG, JPEG, Sprite, this like the Sprite format. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Upload.
And then in terms of sound, like OGG, MP3, whatever the sound.
We don't actually have to do anything for these formats. The browser's supposed to know.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh yeah, and so we also want like an editor for drawing.
Yeah.
So where would that be? In the sprites,
Hmm?
I guess. In the sprite
Yeah.
editor. Yeah,
You click
so
that sprite, you get the editor.
sprite.
So what is a sprite? What does it contain?
And how do we distinguish that against like the room and um, the background image stuff? Oh, what we didn't put in is like, I guess part of the object we needed to be like invisible because we wanted the
Yeah.
collision to be
So
invisible.
yeah, similar to no clip is like, do you draw anything?
Yeah.
So I think yeah, it should also have visible, and that's a thing in GameMaker too. Yeah, yeah, there were two checkboxes. One was collision and one was visible, and you can turn them both off.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's introduce the sprite editor. I'll call this S1 for sprite. But it's really just a general editor, right? Like even if you upload the background image, you should be able to modify.
Yeah, I think it should. You may as well use the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just
So it's just like your editor, image editor. So let's say you upload a sprite collection.
Mm-hmm.
So if you uploaded like a sprite, it would have multiple frames and stuff.
Mm.
How would you see that? Like all the different frames?
Yeah, just have a gallery view of the frames. Or maybe like the frames are like on the bottom and in the middle is like the current frame and you can play and so you'll see the animation play or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the fact that you get like a sub view of all the images, and if it's just one image, you just get one, and then you have
like PowerPoint. You have all the slides on the left and
Mm.
you've got the thing you're working on the right.
Yeah, so you have like play, pause, next, backwards, and then it just shows you this. But then you can also edit it so it has like a palette of colors and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like that.
Or maybe that should go here actually. Colors.
Oh yeah, yeah. It should go there.
Yeah.
The other things that sprites have, I guess, is like everything has a name. Everything's gonna have a name field
Oh yeah.
in their properties. That'll be like a constant field.
Name.
No matter what you have selected, there'll be a name.
Yep. What else does it have? Order.
I was thinking collision. Like,
Oh yeah.
say you have your player and you want to specify your collision shapes for it, but that might be getting a bit advanced. I might maybe just leave that for later. But potentially we could associate collision shapes with a
Yeah,
sprite. With
because
a particular frame.
we wanted the bounding box, right? Like if you have
Yeah.
this is
If
the
you want to be
collision.
more specific than a rectangle, I think doing it on frames is where you'd want to do it. Because like as you're animating,
Yeah.
your collision area changes.
So like this, right? So you would have like these as the collision points.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a collision bounding boxes, bounding areas, drawable.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Nice. Okay. This is good.
This is a gamer maker.
Mm-hmm.
Make a gamer.
Makegamer.
Make
How many minutes have we gone through?
500.
41. Okay. This is a good I guess we could stop here in terms of like the overview, and then the next thing should be like maybe TypeScript and like thinking about technologies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm so keen to do like a really lightweight implementation, like bare bones bit. Biggest bang for buck in terms of implementing a game maker engine.
But do you want to do like what we suggested, using like a web framework to start it off for the editor? Because that seems like the crucial thing is to have like just some layout for the editor, like do the UX for these sorts of template, and then just embed it.
I actually had the runtime part in mind.
Oh, okay.
Like, where your editor was just source files and images, but having the actual editor, like starting that, and yeah, there's like two different fronts you can go down. There's the runtime and the editor, and that's another front.
And that's the other thing, we need state. Like, how do we save state?
I think as much as we can, keep things JSON, and we'll be right.
Okay.
And I think that should be fairly doable.
Where did this go? It's gonna go in there. Okay. All right. I might end the video here. GG.